Welcome everybody here today to Mobile Rolling. We're down at Victor Harbour, sunny Victor Harbour, and in a moment we'll be talking to the president of the Victor Harbour Harness Racing Club, Lynton Bishop, and one of the former presidents and the committee man, Graham Thornton. So we'll catch you in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Graham Thornton and Lynton Bishop to Mobile Rolling. How are you, gentlemen?
Yeah, very well. Yeah,
good.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think what we might start off, Victor Harbour's been going for a very long time. I know when I was a young lad in Port Pirie, they always had their meetings over the Christmas break. Unfortunately, I never got to see a meeting at the old track. But Graham, just wonder if you can tell us a bit about the history of Victor Harbour and where they started and how they've ended up here.
Well, yeah, it's very much part of history in South Australian harness racing, Victor Harbour. And as we know, back in 1948, they first started down at the old track, which used to be in the Victor Harbour itself, behind the back of the hospital. And it was a group that got together to plan where to go. And history going back saying they bought a block of land down there and paid £1,400 to start it and to get it going, and it raced there for one off of 50 years at that old complex down there. We actually had our 50th Cup meeting at Globe Derby because it was between the old track and the new track starting, but to keep it going at the 50th anniversary Cup, we held that one at Globe Derby, and then in 06 we were, December 06 we started racing at our new track, which is where we are today. And the history continues because it's there's a lot of history in the old track that goes back.
So how many years did you race at the track? So did you race in 48 or 49? When did you actually have the first meeting?
Yeah, the first meeting was in where are we? 22nd of January 1948. That was the first meeting after when they got up and running officially. And then they held a lot of meetings there. They were running 6 up to 8 meetings a year, as you say, in the summertime. And but the area down here then was very good because you not only had Victor, you had Strath, you had all those, and they all ran together, sort of thing, at various meetings. Yes, and the southern area was very strong then in harness racing. And there's
so when did they sold the track in 1996, was it? When did they sell the track?
Yeah,
they had a break. You had a break.
Most of the 90s was negotiations with Encounter Lakes, who actually bought the area, which is where the housing development and all is now. That took a while to go, and then we had to look at the financial, and we also had to finish this track. The people that actually bought the land also were engineers. They were the one that developed this track. So this new track now, which is, as I say, the only 1,000-metre track officially in South Australia, designed from Albion Park. The same camber, the same angles and everything. But the club itself did not do that. The club itself waited for that to be done at ground level before we moved in and started doing the facilities. So that was all done.
So there was a break between racing there and racing here.
There was a 10-year break.
10 years, was it?
Yes.
So when did they resume in 2000?
3rd of December 2006. We raced here. That was our opening day. That was one of the biggest days I reckon I've seen down here. We had 2,000 to 3,000 people on that day. It was incredible.
I've been down to a few meetings over the last couple of years, and I think the last one I came to there was people everywhere. It was the best crowd I've seen here for a long time.
We still do. Like we still work on a crowd structure. That's why we try and run in the holiday period. Lynton, as current president, he pushes for that to say that's when we're going to run because that's when we operate the best. And we get people that don't usually go to the trots on the day.
I think a lot of them are losing sight of the fact that if the people are here, you've already got the people. You don't have to get a crowd because they're already here in Victor on holidays and whatever. So, I mean, I know when we used to go down to Fisherman's Bay and we'd get the paper and there would always be, the TAB guide in there or whatever they called it in those days. And, there's some fantastic horses. I was talking last week to Max Evans about Nevada Smoke. I can remember Nevada Smoke getting beaten 1 to 5 favourite by Bronze Honey, which was one of the late Bill Moyle's horses, and Bob Jakes drove it, and it was a champion mare. And he was a Victor Harbour-based gentleman.
Yes, they are also names that related down to here as I was trying to do some history and that I wanted to come onto the show and was looking at the first horse was a horse called Princess Eileen. It's trained by T.H. Sweet, but it was driven by an A. Gath. Now, we know the Gath's name in harness racing.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere. And that was the winner, the driver of the first race at the old track back in 1948.
So when did you what was your involvement? Obviously, you're on the committee because you had horses. How long have you had horses, and what's some of your better horses, and do you have any at the moment, or I
haven't at the moment, but I have had ever since about 86, 87 I started, and started learning the game and helping people like Keith Joy and people, noted names around this area, Gary McMillan and all those that used to be down here then, and started driving. And straight away roped onto the committee because, you were involved, come on the committee. And I've virtually been on and off that committee ever since then.
So you were the president when the new track, the first meeting, were you?
Yes, I was part of the committee that was doing the transfer from the old track to the new track, and I put my hand up as president about 2 or 3 years before we actually opened. So I had to go through the negotiation of this subdivision, getting the money, finishing it, dealing with council, dealing with harness racing, and we got up and racing.
Which is, I come from the, I do finance and home loans, and I'm a real estate agent, and I can tell you that that's why they put you in as president. Nobody else.
It wasn't an easy road.
It's so difficult. Red tape is ridiculous.
I was fortunate then, and Lynton might even say the same now with Victor Harbour at the moment. The committee is very good. Back then, I had a very good committee that I was directing the traffic. I wasn't the finance brain. I wasn't the manager.
That's what you need.
I directed the traffic. I had people with me.
But that's what a good manager does. He manages a good president. That's what
I had very good people. Like the secretary then was incredible. To get it up and running, and how we finished this complex now, and how we're still going with it, and it's continuing on now, as Lynton would probably say that you need a good committee base, and Lynton's still got that now, so that's
No, that's great. Now getting on to you, Lynton, because I know that you were probably still playing football when Graham was organising a lot of this, because I know you've got a distinguished career in Australian rules football in South Australia in the country football. I think you've won 3 medals and very distinguished and decorated footballer, but we won't go on about that. So how did you get involved in the industry? And what horses have you had that have been notable? And have you got a horse at the moment, or will you and Graham be buying one after this tape?
Down the road.
So how did you? Obviously, you're pretty hard to mix football and horses together because you're training at night and you've got fitness and stuff like that. So how did you end up getting into the game?
Through my job, I've always probably since I was a young boy, when Mum and Dad used to go to Wavell from time to time, so I used to tag along with them, and I can recall 1963 as a young lad, Cardigan Bay winning in the Inter-Dominion, coming 4 or 5 wide around that last turn. We were at the concrete stand, huge crowd.
Stretch for the last time in Waitaki, Hanover still the leader from Idle Raider by about a length, being followed by Cardigan Bay, now making another drive on the outside. Nearest of the others, Bay, the leader from Waitaki, Hanover on the inside, and Cardigan Bay, Wonder Money, Cardigan Bay.
And it just developed a love, I suppose. You get infatuated with the whole thing, and it's something I thought, well, once I'd finished footy, I finished football in...
How old were you when you finished football?
36.
36?
Yes, I was still playing A grade at 36, but I decided, I was actually coaching Yankalilla at the time. That would have been the 80s, late 80s, and we played in an elimination final, and we got beaten. And I think at the end of the game, I took the boots off and threw them in the bin. And I know there were 3 other players after me did the same thing. I said, that's it, I'm finished. I never went back. So I knew if I hung around footy, I'd still be playing.
Now that would have been really special then.
Yeah. And the old legs had gone out by then. Yeah. But even before that, I was probably, in my job, I worked for SA Water. I'm still there. After 48 years, I'm still there. But how much longer, debatable. Yeah, I met Frank Romeo. Frank worked for SA Water. He was a surveyor, and he was actually down at Victor, and he had a horse, Romeo Man. Frank was a really
And
good
where were you
galloping
living
trainer.
at the time?
I lived at, I had a property, I had 10 acres at between Aldinga and Maslin's Beach. I had a property there, we built a house there. And through Frank, he had this Romeo Man, so we came down one weekend and he said, just go and get on that horse and drive it, you know. So anyway, I did, and I loved it. So he, you know, that was the involvement. So I started coming down on the weekend and just, you know, working his horse, jogging his horse, you know, helping him out. And from there, he said to me, look, one of the guys, a guy named Laurie Grinley, who trained horses down here, Laurie had a horse called Slick Morris that had actually won a race. She was a C1 at the time, and he wanted to sell it, or the owner wanted to sell it. Lance Justice actually drove it when it won, and he said, look, you could probably get it for a couple of $100, which I did. And ironically, so then I started, the following year, started training that, you know, under his guidance, and she was a nice little mare, very small, but a trier. And ironically, in 1985, she won. She won in 85. But the first start in the race was at Victor. She drew barrier 1, a stand and start. She was a good beginner. She led all the way until about the last 50 metres. Got beaten by a horse called Tiara Tess or something, I think it's called, who came off its back. Simon Ewan, the current chairman of stewards, he actually drove it. He was a junior driver at the time. I think 2 weeks later we went to Murray Bridge, and she drew barrier 1 again in a mobile. And I thought, oh God, they'll probably go too fast for her here, but you've got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she led all the way, never got near her. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is that, I know that you had a nice horse. Is that the mother of that horse? Or?
Yeah.
So what was the nice horse? And
Isn't It Time?
Isn't it?
I think you can see just there behind you. She won the Ladyship Stakes at 2 in 1990.
Yep. So it looks like it's Sire Stakes final.
Yeah, she won the Sire Stakes final at 3.
Were you training then?
No. I never trained her. Frank trained her.
Okay.
And look, he did a fantastic job with that horse. Gary McMillan drove it that day, that night. She drew barrier 6 in that Sire Stakes final. Went back at the start, which you didn't know you have to. Delta Girl led, and that was obviously the one to beat. But
that's one of Mitten's horses, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, Neil Mitten. She come with a flashing run. She was a very good stayer. You know, she had speed and stayer. The only problem with her in the end, she hurt herself. She was in a stall, I think, where she couldn't see. You know, I think she just drove her mad.
I think most mares these days, most of the good ones are trained out of a paddock or a decent sized yard because they get tying up and whole.
Yeah. Oh, she, you know, I had her home, you know, after a 3-year-old campaign. She hurt herself for the last start she had as a 3-year-old, but we brought her home and then turned her out. And what she did, she damaged her hind leg. She got it caught over a fence instead of, you know, horses, instead of lifting their foot over the top of it, she decided to pull against the wire until she cut the damn thing, cut the tendon. It was a shame.
So she ended up producing a nice horse, which is good. I mean, it's always nice to race one and breed one.
Yeah. Well, isn't it time won 7 races? Yeah. She won the Kapunda Oaks in 92, I think. No, she's a 3-year-old, so it would mean that year. And I actually drove her. She drew barrier 7 inside it. And I can tell you about that night. We took her from Victor to Kapunda. I had to come and pick her up and take her up there. And she kicked from the time we put her in the float till we got to Wollonga. Frank, the trainer, got in the back in the float with her to calm her down. So I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be great. You know, she's going to run a race before, but she went superbly that night. You know,
but they got those mares with a bit of spirit are always the good ones.
Yeah.
Just without finishing up too quick, what do you both think of just quickly the future of Victor Harbour? I mean, I'm a great advocate for it. I'd love to see some lights here, and I'd love to see facilities here where people could train out of it. But you know, maybe that's a pipe dream. But you know, the southeast, it's a long way to go to race at. Globe Derby and maybe Victor's a go. Well, what's your thoughts on the future of? Is it just going to be a holiday, a place where, because the crowds are here on the holidays and the breaks, is that the go?
Interesting.
Or do you go?
Very interesting.
Do you go
question.
to the next level?
Very interesting question, because that has been a talk for a fair while. At the moment, we have to just go with the holiday period because we haven't got a chance to do anything. But it would be so good to see down the track a similar thing in the southern area as what Pirrie is in the northern area.
Exactly.
I think we'd love to see that sort of develop down here.
Yeah.
And with what we have got with the 1,000-metre track and everything here, it would be great for that. But I don't think that's in the Victor Harbour Harness Racing Club's complete hands.
Oh no,
It would be a pie in the sky to happen. It'd be lovely. I think most people will agree that it would be fantastic to have a southern area similar to
I'm
Crocker in the
sure
northern.
that night racing at Victor in the summertime with the lights. Do you
Saturday
agree with
night?
that?
But-
What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Saturday, you can imagine a Saturday night here with lights in the summer period. It'd be just fantastic. We wouldn't have enough room to put everyone in, you know. And what you've got to look about with Victor, really there's no dogs, there's no gallopers, you know, there must be Galwa.
Yeah.
So here's a great opportunity, you know, Victor Harbour, you know, to promote the industry. And that's what we're trying to do, is encourage people to come to the races. You know, we want crowds to come, you know.
Yeah, I've been here and seen it, you know, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. And look, I think a classic example, if we go back to, you know, the Easter in 2019, when there was no option but they had to race at Victor. We've got 90 stalls, we had 93 horses, the money was there, and we got everybody.
Exactly.
It was
But it comes back to numbers, and if you're only going to have small fields, and you know, if you've got good fields, it makes a difference. But look, we could probably talk forever and ever and ever. But look, I'm a great I think Victor Harbour's fantastic. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that would love to be able to train near here. There's a beach you can walk your horse on, etc., etc. But as you said, it's not in the hands of the club.
No.
And probably it's really not in the hands of HRSA or whatever. It's in the hands of the government, the TABs, the whole parliament. And at the moment, I think with COVID, everything's up in the air. But I would love to see this develop further. But
It could be a combination of all those you just mentioned to make it sort of happen. I mean, look at the photo behind us. If you look at the crowd, on opening day, when the mayor cut the ribbon to open it, you could not move along that fence, as I said. You know, it's incredible. And they're still here. They're still interested.
See, what we're trying to do, you know, it's in the plans that we want to have 4 on-track stables at this stage. You know, we're starting off with the 4. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully we can attract some trainers.
Yeah, exactly.
And get some more horses. See, you know, it's no one's fault, but when the club, you know, closed down, you know, for that period, there was something like 20 trainers at Victor. You know, once it
but I
closed
think
down,
I think that's
only a few
South Australia wide.
Yes,
that doesn't
it's not
matter.
just
I mean,
here.
I'm from Pirrie originally, and it doesn't matter whether it's Wales, Port Augusta, Cadina, that's happened everywhere. But look, I think at the end of the day, you've got a passionate committee, you have a passionate club, you have great following locally, and let's going forward hope that maybe we're talking here in a couple of years' time and it's grown to another level. So I'd like to thank you both for coming along today, and all the best for the Victor Harbour Harness Racing or Trotting Club, whatever. I mean, the oldies call it the harness racing.
The people that walk in here call it the trots.
That's right. All the very best. Thank you, man.
No,
No worries.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.